We started this trip in Pu'er, in southern Yunnan. Pu'er is the home of tea. Over the centuries, tea has spread all over the world, but some of the original exports were to Tibet. Tea was packed on pack horses up into Tibet and then traded there for Tibetan horses, which were very much in demand by the army. Bulk tea would be almost impossible to handle, so it was compressed into pancake-like shapes so that it would be then much more practical to carry on a horse. Pu'er is still the center for wholesale shipping of tea, so there are lots of various shops quite happy to give you tastes of it and of course to sell you some. Green tea has to be washed 3 times. It's a rather messy process with the hot water being poured on it and dumped and poured and dumped and poured and dumped prior to the final concoction. What we call black tea, or in the Chinese call red tea, is done in the same way as we do it, just with normal steeping, so it was far neater. Compressed tea is still available as a specialty item. It has a very wide range of prices. The tea terraces start right on the city outskirts. The headquarters of the major tea corporation. Then on to their demo plantation. There were a few people out picking, but most tea is now harvested by machine. The second alphabet was established for the local tribal language. A fancy viewing gallery. We thought we were going to be subjected to a rock band, but it wasn't too bad, and they had quite a bit of variety.
Oh
An actual tea pot. I'm not sure what you would use it for. On the road was an unscheduled village stop. In this case, the man is tilling his garden in the traditional fashion. There was a lot of construction in the next village we visited. The flowers are used for food and dye. It's spelled D-Y-E. Our destination is up in the mountains, so we took a shortcut over this rather rough road. She wasn't hitchhiking. She must have been waiting for either a bus or a ride. We eventually joined up with this road. It isn't all that smooth, but at least it didn't have any potholes. And it took us to a village where we had lunch. He was hesitant when asked if we could look at his house, but his granddaughter came out and said, "Come on in." She seemed very motherly, but it was a neighbor's child, not a brother. Something we hadn't seen before. Sugarcane grown on a mountainside. They are shifting it down onto a pile for pickup by a truck. The cane is not irrigated. The water caught by these ditches during the rainy season is sufficient to raise the crop. We have now entered a rice growing area. These women were using the sunset viewing platform for a dance. They left soon after we arrived, unfortunately. If you think there's a lot of pictures here, you should see all we took. This is the Red River, which flows into the South China Sea at Hanoi in Vietnam. The Chinese have dammed it. The river no longer floods, so the Vietnamese have lost the silt-laden water which used to fertilize the delta. It is slowly dying. There was a lot of activity in the village as we drove past, so of course we crashed the party. It turned out that it was a celebration of life. The family were putting on a thank you banquet for the people who had been helpful to the man during his lifetime. The funeral would be the next day. The man's nephew was sponsoring it. He wanted to feed the lot of us, but we carried on to a restaurant. This village was known as a living fossil. Dress and customs hadn't changed for centuries. Now it is almost deserted. The younger residents have all gone away to earn money working on roads and other construction projects. They've come back and rebuild or build new buildings so that the old folks can have somewhere decent to live. And the whole fossil philosophy is disappearing. The two rich families who built this building were pushed out after the communist takeover. The building was filled with poor people, and I guess it's their descendants that live there now. They were having a block party when we visited. We had to refuse food here too. Yuangshi's water wells have been famous for hundreds of years. The water is bailed out one way or another and then transported also one way or another. It is used to make tofu, which is claimed to be the best in the world. It was just after the Chinese New Year. All of the various Chinese years are represented in symbols like this. This one is Myrtle's, the dog. I'm afraid I'm a rat. Do you think they make suicide belts? They had quite a few of these. You scan it with your phone, and you've got all the description of the area with you. The stage from the royal viewing platform. I think our hotel was much more palatial. This area is popular for its convoluted lake system. You can take boat tours all over the area. We were in the off-season. It is particularly popular when the lotus are in bloom. They even have a paddle submarine. It does make you wonder, but they are two different spots. While most Buddhas are rather androgynous, this one is definitely female. It comes from the adaptation of a local deity into Buddhism. It seemed to be a family restaurant. Both of the waitresses had babies on their backs. Heather tried to organize a picture, but it was misunderstood. The babies were taken out of the packs so they could be examined or admired. Back on the road with another celebration to be crashed, this time a wedding. This little girl couldn't attend. She had to keep the buffalo out of the garden. This private school was finishing for the day. We managed to get past security and get inside. People with white hair were quite a novelty. The younger ones were a bit more suspicious. Felix named this picture, "Are they from another planet?" It didn't take them long to get comfortable with us. We had to take our glasses off so they could see the color of our eyes. It was quite a novelty. Poor Steve, who was well over 6 feet, had to bend over so the little ones could see his eye color. A tea table. Note the drain at the front right. The purpose of that is so that when they wash the tea, they can just dump it on the table and it runs down the drain. In fact, the whole table is graded so that any splashes or drains will work its way down into this one same bucket. Some of the items for sale weren't quite to our taste. Some of the villages have been given exotic names to appeal to the tourists. Shangri-La is up in the northwest of Yunnan. These aren't petals. They're the remains of fireworks from the New Year's celebrations. Until recently, the only access to the village was by boat or by pack horse. There's now a rather bumpy road, but the pack horses are still in service. For how long, it's hard to say. They were having their lunch when we were there. Note the baby on the back of the girl on the right.
怎么表现温柔的我们，还以为殉情只是古老的传言。你走的有多痛，痛有多浓，当梦被埋在江南烟雨中，心碎了才懂。
Our boatman was in a hurry to get back. This was the reason. Rich Chinese and some overseas Chinese have bought the rights to build these excellent toll highways. They are all over the area and go into some spots which were practically inaccessible before, without an awful lot of trouble anyhow. It seemed to us that in the remote areas, the villages along the route were emptied of the working age people who had gone to provide labor for the highway construction. Once the younger people start making money, they seem to lose their interest in their tribal customs. The villages now are less unique than they had been previously. We were pleased to have been able to see some while the custom still remained. This black dress Wang group has attacked the depleted village problem by turning their village into a tourist attraction. They do quite a good job of it, but the younger people still don't seem to be there in numbers. As with many of these tribal groups, we were greeted with a cup or perhaps several cups of their homemade whiskey. They were still mourning, and I'm pleased to say that theirs was nowhere near as strong as that which we were fed a few years before by a tiger dance tribe. With a seat like this in the bar, I can't help but think that you'd feel woozy very quickly. Some badges with the old photo club name were very popular with the children. Heather was presented as a new village member. The presenters are girls from the village, but they now work in the cities and are just back for a visit. The ages of the dancers didn't quite match those in the advertisement. After the dancing, they sang to us. Then it was our turn to sing. You can see how much they appreciated our efforts. The lunch entertainment was them singing and pouring whiskey. And yet another cup before we hit the road. Entertainment for someone else's party at the restaurant. These karst limestone features cover a wide area in China and even extend into Vietnam. Because of its reputation for longevity, this area has become very popular with retirees. Some of their older citizens. He claims to be 117 and is very proud to help support his family by having his picture taken with tourists. This is not a family. These two unrelated teachers are part of a group spending 2 months taking children around China so that they can get to know the country. The ratio is 1 child per teacher. The Baimo cave is supposed to have ionized air, which is good for clearing the body. given by the emperor to this man's grandfather on his 115th birthday. This plaque would have been destroyed by the Red Guard if it hadn't been turned upside down and had legs put on it to make it look like a table. In that humble form, it survived the Cultural Revolution. Very chewy stuff. By the luck of the draw, one was supposed to sing. Instead, she invited her friends up and they danced. This is known as square dancing. They used boom boxes for the music and have become very unpopular with the neighbors.